As the India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Mitchell, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now, another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Swami was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some of the eminent personalities there also. And one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where he was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee there. But somehow, 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Swami, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from inside and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation. India raised the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert, and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans, silently threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US, and Australia. These are 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats in the recent past. India has raised the issue with all of these countries, while Canadian authorities, for obviously a reason, domestic political reason, they were reluctant in acting against these terrorists. We have seen some assurances coming from Australian government, US also saying that they will look into the issues of Khalistani terrorists, and they do not support any violent group in the name of freedom of speech and expression. London authorities also has given assurances to the Indian government, especially ever since earlier this year, when some of the Khalistani members tried to breach into the building of London High Commission. One of them also pulled down the Indian Tiranga and tried to disrespect it. In this scuffle, one of the diplomat was injured as well. So it became kind of a very flared up situation, and UK authorities did realize the fact that there is a clear threat and violence and intimidation from these Khalistani terrorists, and they are no more just a social or political activists trying to raise their voice for some cause. They are real violent extremist agents, and there has been some sort of security that has been extended to the Indian diplomat and Indian communities also there. But despite all these, we continue to see a rise in threat on social media. Various platforms of social media are also trying to propagate Indian diplomats as a part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Swami's name was also put on a social media poster, and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this their terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents, or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is not taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well, if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries.